Hey, welcome back. D7C's here. Thanks for joining me. Man, what a day to be alive. Anyways, man, I want to just do a 3 month update review on this bad boy. If you don't know what this is the Chris Reeve Umnumzaan. It's been around from what I can see from 2008. So it's been around the block a few times. If you are a knife enthusiast or if you're into the knife hobby in any way, then you definitely know what this knife is. But really, I think this review is going to try to answer like your question of like, hey, you know what? I'm about to drop a few, 100 bones on this guy. Is this the right knife for me? What are the pros and cons? And is it really worth, the money, considering that there's so much competition nowadays, and you could get so much, for your money. There's just a lot of companies doing some really innovative, really cool things that you could get in on for less. And so, anyways, this is my kind of take, my experience with this knife. I got this knife back in December of 2020, and I really wanted to get a knife to really as a reminder of all that I overcame in 2020, and just a reminder to be thankful for the life that I have each day. It's not to be taken for granted. So I know, yeah, man, it's good to have something to just constantly remind you to just be thankful, just to have some gratitude, even if it's like the smallest mundane things in life. I found that, if I'm feeling down or I'm just starting to kind of go through a slump, one of the most like fastest, effective ways to kind of get back on the path is just start to find things to be thankful for. Literally, if you cannot find something to be thankful for, then just start finding just the most ridiculous things. Like, man, I got two shoes that I'm wearing versus one. Man, I'm thankful for like um I don't know, having socks on my feet. I'm not trying to be like, funny per se, but like there's a lot we could be thankful for. And sometimes, I get so focused on what I don't have or what's going wrong that I forget of everything else that's just going so good, and that I'm just so blessed with. Anyways, the video is about this guy here. So, like I said, I've had this knife since December, so it's been about 3.5 months now, close to 4 months, and so I feel like I have a better just handle on this knife. And now that I've kind of, now the honeymoon has ended, right? Because like all like knife enthusiasts out there, man, anytime I get a new knife in hand, man, like, I mean, that knife can do no wrong, right? You just love the knife, regardless of its flaws and imperfections, right? And so, I had that honeymoon period, and then as quickly as I fell in love with this knife, I like kind of fell out of love, out of love, and I'm just gonna kind of go over that. Yeah, I really actually thought about selling this knife, but actually now I'm at a point where I love this knife, guys. I don't think this knife is gonna go anywhere. And not because it's a perfect knife. It's not a perfect knife, and I'll tell you that just straight up. Like, it's not a perfect knife, at least for me. But that's why I feel like, despite of its like flaws and imperfections, I feel like that's what really gives this knife like character and personality, and that's why I love this knife so much. So, anyways, first thing I want to talk about is the reason why I don't, I really just kind of fell out of love with this knife. First of all, was just this locking tab, right? So, ah, so you got this locking tab, and I know, like, so most knife companies, when they design this area to kind of help you like disengage that locking tab, right? you need some space, right? So typically what they'll do is they'll kind of, scoop out a channel or like a space, like you see here. What Rick Hinder does is he kind of gives you space for your thumb, the meat of your thumb, to kind of get in there and just push that lock bar over, right? So a lot of knife companies, that's how they do it, right? But with the Umnumzaan, they kind of did the opposite, where they actually give you more real estate on the locking tab, so it kind of protrudes out, as you see here, right? As you can see. And so now you actually have real estate for your thumb to kind of take a hold of that tab. It like really just grabs the meat of your thumb, and then you just push it over and call it a day, right? And I think that's a great idea. I think it's very innovative. I think Chris Reeve knives, they just want to try something different. I think that, yeah, it works really well. It's very effective. My thumb has never slipped when I went to go and use that tab. I have plenty of real estate, plenty of traction, for it to just grip my thumb, move it over. Let me put this guy away real quick before I hurt myself. But the only issue, at least for me, it might not be an issue for other folks, but I've noticed this has been like the main criticism of the Umnumzaan is that you do have this real estate, but the way that Chris Reeve, the way they kind of scooped out that area right there, so you get this very narrow, kind of a sharp edge, right? And so while it is very effective in gripping the meat of your thumb, it's actually kind of uncomfortable, So if you're like a normal person, right? Just a normal guy or gal that just keeps a knife in the pocket, and they only pull it out when they need to cut something, and they cut whatever it may be, string or whatever, and then they just go ahead and put that, close the knife and put it away. You know what? I feel like it won't be much of an issue, But if you're like a special person like myself, aka a knife enthusiast, we play with our knives, right? We fidget with our knives. Sometimes we open our knives 100 times a day, right? Just because, we just love the feel of the action. You love the feel of that lock just engaging. It's just, yeah. So, I mean, for me, like, I'll open and close this knife like many times a day. And if you're that kind of a person, this tab, yeah, you'll feel it in the thumb. I don't know if you can see, but my thumb has calloused over after playing with many knives over the years. But even then, I could still feel it, right? I could feel that narrow just edge, just kind of digging into the meat of my thumb. And after some time, it does feel, it does feel a little bit like hot, spotty. Not only that, but it's really interesting. And actually, what I do love about this this locking tab, is that when you have it in the open position like so, it actually kind of creates a shallow like finger choil. And I don't know if that's what Chris Reeve intended, but it does work. It does kind of provide a nice indexing point for your forefinger to kind of go into that shallow choil. And so it sits like right there. But the thing is that now in this grip position, you feel that lock tab, the tip, that kind of that peak of that tab kind of dig in to your forefinger. So when I'm like really just gripping this knife hard and really trying to bear down into the material that I'm cutting, like dense cardboard or maybe just really thick manila rope, I do feel that tab kind of dig into that area. So I don't know if that's your experience, but that's been my experience. And so like I said, if you're just a normal person that just opens this knife to cut something real quick and then put it away, it's not going to be honestly much of an issue. But if you're like me, where I open and close this knife a lot, and I kind of grip this knife to just kind of just really appreciate, this knife in hand, then yeah, I do kind of feel that. The second area that's kind of been an, what do you call it? I don't know if it's a thumbs down for me or whatever, but it's weird, okay, guys? Because when I first saw this knife, I never thought that this a pocket clip would be what do you call it? An area like a hotspot area, because you know I've handled and I own several CRK knives that have this exact same like pocket clip configuration. I know they've in the last like 2 or 3 years they've now kind of canted it at an angle, but I still have several Sabenzas where it's just a straight angle, out onto the lock bar, and I've had no issues with that. I don't feel it in my hand. And actually it's interesting is when I have when I use my Sabenza, my large Sabenza, for example, with the exact same configuration, this area right here, it actually rests very comfortably, very nicely, right in the gap between my middle finger and my ring finger. So I don't feel this clip at all. But for some reason with this Umnumzaan, I feel that clip a little bit more. I feel it like right in this area. So I don't know what's going on. Maybe it's just the because the handle profile is different, so it kind of causes me to grip a knife in a certain way, in a different way versus like the large Sabenza. But I do feel that kind of that clip. So all in all, I feel the hot spot kind of in my forefinger and then in the meat of my palm right there. So if I was to use this knife for like a long period of time, I feel like those are the two areas that I kind of start to feel, just uncomfortable. And so, so that's that. I mean, I'll be real honest with you guys and girls. Like, I don't use my knife for like hours on end. I'm not like, I don't know, like some farmer out there somewhere where I need to be using my knife like, several hours a day. So guys, to be honest, I'm nitpicking, right? I'm nitpicking, but I just want to point it out just in case you're the type of a knife enthusiast or just a regular person that just wants a really comfortable knife, very ergonomic knife, just won't have any hand fatigue or hot spots, then the Umnumzaan might not be the knife for you. Out of all the Chris Reeve knives that I've handled and owned, this knife feels the most awkward in the hand. Okay, but yeah, that's that. So you might be asking, okay, Daniel, like, then why the heck, like, do you still have this knife? Like, why are you keeping this knife? I'll get to that, I promise. But let's just move on real quick. Let me see, is there anything else? Oh yeah, the other thing that I don't like as much is just the way this thumb stud is located. As you can see in the closed position, it's located flush against the frame, right? And so you don't get a lot of space to like use that thumb stud. I wish I had my other knives out here, but like I think a good example would be maybe my DPX Hest folder. So typically a knife will have a gap or a space between the frame and the thumb stud, so you kind of have a space for the meat of your thumb to kind of wedge into that space and really just use that thumb stud. So in this case you don't have that space, right? So you might be asking, okay, then what's the issue? Well, it's not really an issue, but it takes a certain learning curve to know how to like open this knife. I mean, it's not rocket science, but it's not really an outward motion, it's more of an upward motion. So it's gonna be more like that. If you try to kind of use the outward motion, it's going to be a little bit harder because I find that I kind of grip this knife a little bit differently, and I kind of put a lot of pressure on the lock bar when I tried to do it outward, right? So it was just really hard to open the knife. Like, as you can see, I'm like white knuckling it and it's hard. So the way I do it is, and I think most people kind of figure it out as well, is that they just, gingerly kind of hold the knife and then they just do an upward motion like this and it just opens up. Oh yeah, so that's it really. And And yeah, as you can see, I think you notice the thumb stud acts as the stop pins, right? As it goes to lock up, so it locks up against the frame. There is no dedicated stop pin. But yeah, so those are the kind of the main things I just, that made me think about, like, letting this knife go, because I really like ergonomic knives. I love the Spyderco's and the some of the ZTs. I like my other Chris Reeve knives, because they're comfortable in the hand. It feels neutral in the hand, and like I said, this the Umnumzaan was the most awkward feeling Chris Reeve knives in my hand. So that being said, you're like, okay, then just get rid of it. And here's the reason why I didn't get rid of it. I absolutely love this knife. I know it's gonna sound like, what the heck? Like, you just complained and whined, and I could hear you guys behind the screen yelling at me and like, dude, you're a whiner, you're this and that, and I totally get it, guys. It's all in good fun. So let me now move on to why I love this knife and why this knife is not going anywhere. All right. Where can I even start? I guess I'll start with the action. The action, and when I say action, you get the typical, just the buttery smooth, like bank vault like action that Chris Reeve is just known for, right? I mean, when we talk about action, most knife enthusiasts will compare the action. They'll compare it to Chris Reeves. If it's a folding knife, they're gonna compare that to a Chris Reeves, because Chris Reeve really set the standards on what a knife can do. How a knife can be made. Yeah. So the action on this is just a typical, just extremely glass on glass, buttery smooth, just bank vault like action. As you can see, I can flick it. It has broken into that point where I can flick it, but when the first first few months I had it, I couldn't do that. But now that it's broken in real nice, I can thumb flick it. But when I talk about action, I'm not so much talking about the opening action more than the lockup action. And I'm talking more about the feel. Did you hear anything? Yeah, let me try that again, okay? Let me try that again. Whoa, did you hear that? You probably didn't, because there's nothing to hear. Typically when you open up a knife, right? So let me bring out the Hinder Eclipse, also a knife that I absolutely love. Like, okay, let me just open it up. See how loud that knife is? I mean, not loud, but you could hear the knife click into place, right? There's like a very noticeable click. I'll do it as softly as possible. See, even then you can hear that click, right? So check this out. Umnumzaan, like I showed you. Okay, you could hear the click, but it's very subtle, very precise, very soft. It's very soft. Like, I don't know how to describe it in a way without sounding like weird, because it feels very soft, but it's not like soft in a sense like it feels flimsy. It's very soft, but very precise, very robust. It's not going anywhere. There is no wiggle in any direction. I'm 100% confident this knife will not fail on me. It's just, I think it's the way that the detent ball, which acts as the interface between that locking tab. You might be able to see that ball. See that ball right there? That's sitting on right on top of that lock bar. So when it drops into that right there, that's the detent hole. That combined with the thumb stud, which has O-rings around it, as it locks up, both of the two things simultaneously engage. It just has this very unique feel that I haven't felt in any other folding knives, to date. It's very subtle, very quiet, very precise, very just pleasant to open and close. I absolutely love that about the Umnumzaan. It just has a very unique feel as it locks up. Oh, it feels, and that's the thing about this video is that it's hard to translate, through the screen. It's something that has to be felt. So if you ever get a chance to handle one in person, just go ahead and open that knife up, and then you'll know what I'm talking about. It's just something just very unique. I just love about the Umnumzaan. The next thing I love about this knife is just it just looks so darn stunning. It's just so visually appealing to the eye. I mean, let's start off with the blade, right? You got this beautifully machined, like, hollow grind that Chris Reeve has just perfected. The thing I love about hollow grinds is that it preserves the very strong, thick, like, blade stock, but it tapers down to a very fine, like, cutting edge. And and because of this blade geometry, right? So it tapers. It has a certain, like, kind of a swell. It when I cut through material, it, like, pushes the material away from the blade because of the way that angle is, right? So it just slices so well, and I love that about Chris Reeve. I love about what I love about this Umnumzaan is that it cuts so well. It doesn't just look pretty, it cuts pretty darn well, and then I love how they have this double swoop that comes down to this very just aggressive looking harpoon tip. Oh my gosh, like, and then I love that first swoop. It's a perfect landing zone for my thumb if I want to really put some force behind my cuts and really want to bear down on some material. That area fits perfectly for my thumb. So anyways, moving on to look at that tip. It's just a machine that it's not like I wouldn't say it's like a cutting edge per se, but it is kind of sharp. So I have used it to cut through, like, shipping tape and whatnot. And also, like, if I have this in my pocket like this for some reason, or I don't know, like maybe like this or whatever, like this or like this. Sometimes if I put my hand in my pocket too quickly, I can feel that edge a little bit kind of coming against my skin, and sometimes I check my hand to make sure I didn't cut myself. But yeah, it is a very it's like kind of a sharp edge, but what it does provide, it provides a very just robust and capable piercing tip. Look at that. Oh man, look at it. Look at that. That looks like a diamond, That just looks like a diamond ready to pierce into the depths of darkness, Man, this thing is such a good piercer too. So I feel like Chris Reeve really just perfected the balance of just visual aesthetic with just cutting and piercing ability with this knife, And then, as you can see, it just has a nice belly that just provides a really nice flat portion for your cutting. And then look at that, that plunge grind, and that ricasso is kicked, far back enough so you can sharpen the whole edge, tip to heel. Ooh, I almost poked myself, man. Anyways, moving on. I love that crosshatch pattern. The other pattern I've seen was the Wilson Combat Edition. I actually had that edition, like, man, several years ago. I ended up selling it, and I regretted it, and that's why I ended up getting this guy, even though it took, a few years. But I actually prefer this crosshatch design. I feel like it kind of, I don't know, to me it looks better, and yeah. Anyways, so yeah, that's I don't know if I'm on the second or third thing that I love about this knife. The next thing I love about it is just the simplicity in design and construction, and it's just literally these two screws that are holding the knife together, and from what I've counted, this knife is only made up of like 10 pieces, maybe 11 pieces if you include the lanyard. I mean, think about that. That's just like, like, just one less thing to worry about. It's just one less thing to get lost. When you have so just little, amount of pieces to worry about, it, to me as the end user, it just brings joy. It just brings joy to my soul. Because it's just the ease of maintenance, and not only that, like they kept this knife very simple, right? But they still were able to preserve the robustness and the structural integrity of a knife that could really handle pretty much anything that you could throw at it. There was no flex, there was no wiggle, there was no bend. This knife feels just as solid as any other Chris Reeve knives out there. It just feels like just a workhorse of a knife in hand. You know, this thing comes in at about 5 ounces. And so I feel like this is not a lightweight, it's not a heavyweight. I would say it's more like a welterweight, middleweight, if I want to keep on that fight analogy. You know, so I feel like it's just a really great balance of making this knife feel very substantial, very solid in the hand, but it's not going to be like an overbearing like presence in the pocket. You know, not only because, you know, it doesn't feel that heavy in the pocket. I mean, you'll know that it's there, but it's not going to be something like a ZT, you know, 0308 where it's like pushing 6 ounces, you know. And I love that it has a relatively slim like profile. So when it's sitting in the pocket, you still have enough space to put other like knickknacks in that same pocket. You know, it also sits, you know, very flush against the body. So, you know, it's just, I just feel like Chris Reeve really achieved a great balance of just function and form with this knife. You know, I really feel like they kept the end user in mind when they came out with this knife, you know, back in 2008. I think that's when it came out with. Yeah, so it's just, this thing is just as an everyday carry, it's just been an absolute joy to carry. You know, it's been an absolute joy to use because it cuts just so well. This is in their S35VN steel. I know they've been slowly transitioning over to the S45VN, but for me, S35VN is just is more than capable for the kind of stuff that I cut and the tasks that I do. I feel like it's just the most balanced steel out there. You know, yeah, it's not the latest and the greatest. You know, and the knife enthusiast part of me definitely is curious about the S45VN, you know, but if I was to be very honest, S35VN has just been a great steel for me. You know, it has a really just a good balance between corrosion resistance, you know, sharpenability, toughness. What else? I mean, it's just just a really well balanced steel for an everyday carry. So, you know, no complaints there, you know. And Chris Reeve does an excellent job in the way they heat treat their knives, their steels, and so I've had no issues with S35VN. Yeah. What else can I say? Have I given you guys enough reasons to why I've kept this knife? So hopefully that helps, you know. Hopefully that kind of gives you a little bit more information if this knife is the right knife for you. I know that, you know, retail, this knife comes in, I think, at about $450. So it is a big purchase, you know. And like, trust me, guys, I'm not like swimming in money here. You know, I really am not. Like, you know, I have to do a lot of trading, a lot of selling to get knives into my rotation. And so I would say I'm like the average knife enthusiast, you know, but I'm so glad that I have this in my rotation because this is an absolute just fun, just unique knife to have. It has a lot of personality, and that's why I love this knife. It's not perfect. You know, I've had a lot of perfect knives in my collection. You know, example being like a Spyderco Paramilitary 2. I've had several of those. You know, but they're no longer here, not because they're bad knives. They're actually perfect everyday carry knives, you know. But I'm at a point in my knife journey where I'm not really looking for perfect knives on paper, you know. I'm just looking for knives that really speak to me, that really just kind of fits the bill in terms of, you know, does it have character? Is there something innovative about the knife? Is it unique? You know, what have you. So I'm not really looking for a perfect knife. I'm just looking for a knife that just speaks to me, and the Umnumzaan just really speaks to me. Yeah, it's, you know, like I said, like I'm big on ergonomics, and so, you know, like it's not the most ergonomic knife for sure, but you know, where it, to me, where it kind of lacks it makes it up way much more in all the other areas, you know, because to me, at the end of the day, the knife should be able to cut and cut well. It should be able to, handle most, if not all, the cutting tasks that I'm looking for. It should be easy to maintain, and it should look good while doing all those things. And the Umnumzaan really fits the bill in all those areas, you know. So if that's what you're looking for, then you will not go wrong with the Umnumzaan. You know, it's there's a reason why it's been around for so long. It's the reason why it's an icon in the knife community. It's instantly recognizable. I mean, it's just really cemented itself as really one of the standards of a folding tactical folder, you know. So with that being said, I hope that was helpful. I would love to hear your comments, your thoughts, your experience with the Umnumzaan. Um, yeah. Thanks so much for watching, and have a wonderful day. Bye now.